Hey everyone, it is Tanya. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome if you are new here. Today I'm back with a apartment renovation, and we are renovating 17 Culpepper House in the Spice District of San Myshuno. And today we're creating an apartment for a musician. More specifically, I feel like this sim primarily plays guitar, and the reason I chose that is because that's the instrument we have the most of in The Sims 4. There does also end up being a keyboard in here and like a music mixing station from Get Famous, so there are some other options, but we are kind of severely lacking in the music department in The Sims, and I feel like for the last few years, bands has been such a highly requested pack type, and so I wanted to be inspired by that idea to create something in game. And I'm really curious what you would like to see in a bands pack. Do you really imagine that as more of a game pack or an expansion pack? We haven't gotten a game pack in a few years now, but I feel like that could potentially be in that size pack, maybe. I really want drums personally, but I'm really curious what they would do with that concept for a piece of DLC. So the floor plan came together pretty quickly in this apartment, and I am starting here in the kitchen where I really wanted to lean into the industrial countertops from base game, but I've never liked the cabinets that match them. So I actually ended up using the cabinets from Life and Death and the appliances from there as well. And then I played around with the idea of some bookcases over here, and I do keep bookcases, but not those ones. And they sort of frame in an area where I have a bunch of guitars on display, which I thought was really fun. And it reminds me of my childhood a little bit. We had so many guitars in our house because my dad was a musician. He loved playing guitar. We also had like saxophones and all kinds of stuff. And so I thought about that a little bit while I was building this. And also, I just felt like this was the perfect time to create an apartment for a musician, because this summer I am actually going to 2 concerts, and I haven't been to a concert in many years now, and I'm so excited. I am seeing Linkin Park pretty soon, and also My Chemical Romance, and I just feel like teenage me is so happy and so excited for both of those experiences. So I was just really in the mood to create something that was more musically oriented in the game. So yeah, I've kind of laid out the area where I'm going to have the guitars on display, and now I'm grabbing some shelves to try and figure out how I want to place everything. And at this point, I do still have these bookcases from Growing Together, I'm pretty sure, but I end up swapping them out for... Actually, I think these ones are from Businesses and Hobbies, and the ones I end up using are from Growing Together. But right now, I'm just raising up some of these guitars. I end up having, I believe, 5 on display here, and then there ends up being 2 on the floor, and I think 1 in the bedroom. There's 8 or 9 guitars total in this apartment, which I thought was kind of fun. There are so many different ones in the game now, so you can really have quite the collection. And it's pretty common to like hang guitars off of the wall. Obviously, that's not how they're displayed here because we don't have the ability to hang them on the wall. However, putting them on the shelf, I felt like had a similar effect to if you were to mount them on the wall. And here are those shelves that I had mentioned. I also thought at this point I was going to use these curtains from Dream Home Decorator in this green swatch, but that's not the color scheme I ended up going for in here in the end. It ends up being more like pops of blue and red instead of green. So we'll get to that here shortly, but first I am placing a bunch of posters on the walls up here. I've got a cluster of some that are from the Love Struck pack, and then I also have some from Werewolves, which I rotated with the tool mod, and there's also this little corkboard piece from Discover University that has a bunch of music like papers hanging from it, so I thought that was perfect to go right above the mixing station. And at this point, it is when I found this rug from Businesses and Hobbies that I thought was the perfect color and vibe for this space. So I changed some of the colors to match that and swapped out the curtains for a blue one instead. And it just really is starting to come together here. It also helped that I put that framed guitar up above the other guitars, and it is on a blue background. And then I was able to grab some blue cushions to put on the couch. I ended up going with the ones that are base game in this blue swatch. And then I actually rotated one of these meditation stools from Spade and put that in like a brown and black swatch. You'll see that here in a moment. It was just nice to have a different shape for a pillow. So I liked that one here. And I think it just adds some character to the space. And then I get some more cushions on the other side and on the other sofa as well. And then when it comes to the coffee table, I tried a few different things, but I actually ended up really loving this one from Jungle Adventure. I loved the dark wood around the rim, but also having the really pretty orange wood that sort of matches what we have in the kitchen. It just felt like it was the right colors for the space. And I grabbed so much clutter to put on this table. I wanted it to kind of tell a story of, them either listening to music, writing music at the same time. So I have open journals. I have piles of like little notebooks. I have some CDs up here. I know that's a little bit outdated. I also have records because I do add a record player in this home, and a little tray with a bottle of wine on it. I just kind of wanted this space to tell a story of somebody who is actively working on their craft. So that was the idea behind it. And then behind the couch, I felt like we needed to have a dining table, even though I do have a couple of island stools in the kitchen. And I tried so many different tables and so many different chairs that I cut out a huge section of this because I was so indecisive. But I did end up just going with a table with 2 chairs, and I moved the bar area over, and I'm going to actually extend that. So there'll be 3 little island seats and just a single table here with a couple of chairs. This is only a 1-bedroom apartment, so having this much seating might seem a little bit weird, but I was imagining that this is where the band comes to hang out and probably write music together. I assume that this sim is not the only one performing. They probably have a group, and they just happen to be the guitarist. So that was the idea behind it. And then I am going back in and decorating or cluttering up the kitchen since I hadn't really done that yet. I just wanted to get the general layout in here. So I got a lot of things from the kitchen clutter kit. I think that's what it's called. And so just placing those down on the counters. I also got a fruit bowl over here and a cork board so your Sims can collect some postcards. And of course aprons, because I put those in pretty much every kitchen I built in the game. And then over in this corner I just have a clock and a plant. And then I didn't finish putting the cushions over on this couch yet, so just doing that now. And then we'll be figuring out what to put behind that couch, which ends up being some more posters. And I use this long stretch of cabinets over here on the floor as a media unit. And this is where we have the TV and our record player and a couple more of these crates of records, which at first I am going to change to be in the blue swatch, but then I felt like they kind of stuck out. So I do change them back to be the black crates a little bit later on. And I also move around some of the artwork as I'm trying to figure out what I want over here. I really liked that framed art of like a beverage up above the TV, so I ended up having a poster over here instead. And then there was a guitar I hadn't used yet, so I placed that over by the chairs as well, and that one I think came with businesses and hobbies. And then on this side I felt like we just needed a little bit something extra, so I do have some books over here, and I used a little hand and a plant as our bookends. And then this is where those posters end up going. I really wanted a mixture of unframed artwork and framed artwork in this space. I felt like it just felt more natural and a little bit more lived in that way. So just grabbing that and a little light, and that should be most of it for this living room. And I think we'll be heading into either the entryway or the bathroom next. Oh yeah, I also had room for this keyboard, which I had mentioned earlier. I wanted to make sure we had something else here, so that is what I was able to fit in that space. The keyboard is originally from City Living, and then we do have a standing piano from a couple of packs now as well. But here we are in the entryway. I was able to have a closet in here, and I also added a washer and dryer, so your Sims can do laundry if you'd like to. The hamper ends up being in the bedroom. I threw it in the bathroom currently, but when I go through and decorate everything, it does end up in the bedroom. And then I just get a clock in the entryway, and I believe also a burglar alarm, temperature controls, and fire alarm. I really try to remember to add those in all of my builds because they're kind of important. But anyway, we are moving on into the bedroom now, where I picked out this bed from Eco Lifestyle. I just felt like it had the correct vibes, and then I paired it with a rug, I believe from Strangerville, that has some more of that red tone that I have in the other room. And with that, I thought that this artwork from Cats and Dogs would work really nicely in this red swatch. And I almost forgot to add the stereo in this space that looks like amplifiers. Those are from the Myshuno stuff pack. They were a perfect addition, and I did add a guitar right next to it, so it looks like you could use them for that purpose, but in game they just function as any other like stereo or record player. And then I'm just cluttering up the bedside tables. I have a mixture of things from everyday clutter in high school years, so there's some like CDs and speakers, a place to throw down your phone, And then for the wardrobe, I picked out one from Industrial Loft, and then there is also a dresser in here from, I believe, For Rent. I'm not entirely sure on that. Either way, it's a really cute dresser, the one I have under the TV. I use it quite a lot because it's small in size, so it fits a lot of places, but I also just think it's really pretty. I love the hardware on it and the cane detailing in the doors. So just cluttering up the top of that with some boxes, books, and a little like city statue, since this is located in San Myshuno. I thought that that made some sense. And then for the bathroom, I actually ended up using quite a bit of the luxury or luxe bathroom. What is it called? Sleek bathroom kit. So I have the shower and the like wall panels there, but I did end up using the countertops from the kitchen to bring in more of that, a little bit more rustic or industrial look. So it wasn't all super sleek and new. So just cluttering up this space with some bathroom decor and general decor. I have like some plants and toothbrushes and all of that. And then we should be heading on into screenshots. So I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. You can also subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more, and click that bell to be notified when I upload. And thank you so much to my YouTube members for your continued support. If you'd like to become a member yourself, you can click the join button below the video or the link in the description. Enjoy the screenshots, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye everyone.